my name is Sheena with Rise Wellness, and this is Activate Your Genius. Thank you so much for being here this week as I am exploring Gene Key 30 from Richard Rudd's book, The Gene Keys. This is my contemplation on the shadow of desire, the gift of lightness, and the Siddhi, or the highest destiny path of rapture. So, when we think about desire, it's not uncommon for us to think about sexual desire. And while, of course, that is one direction that desire can go, there's a whole bunch of other directions that desire can go. Desire is really our genetic hunger. It's our pure impulse of nature. It is not wrong, it is not bad, and we will learn it cannot be transcended. It is simply in our genetic makeup as a human species to have these longings for experience, because it's these experiences that we have that lead us to our eventual evolution. So what's interesting about this shadow is that we feel it in our collective field quite a bit. So it doesn't always serve the individual, but it definitely serves us on a collective level. It's very valuable in all that we learn from our desires. So the real hunger in this shadow is experiencing life itself. And for us to master our lives, we have to experience everything, or at least be privy to the experience of others. So when I think about the 30th shadow, I think a lot about the Guinness Book of World Records, right? You have this collection of all of these outlandish things that all of these people do to make it in this book. And this is really totally stemming from that 30th shadow of that desire to achieve something, to experience something. But what happens when we achieve it is it then will manifest into a different kind of longing. But lucky for us, we don't have to manifest everything itself if we have access to the outcome on what somebody else did. I'll give you an example of, say for example, you have a friend who lost a family member to a drug overdose. Well, based on knowing what the experience of that drug did to your friend's family member, you might now feel like you don't have any desire to ever come in contact with that drug. You don't have to learn firsthand how it can destroy your life. You've already seen what it has done to somebody else. So that's an example of this gene and how it affects us in the collective. So Richard Rudd will call this shadow nature's greatest con, which I think is really fitting because nature really uses us as guinea pigs for evolution itself. So eventually we have to experience all of these things, and desire is more likely to get us killed than it will lead us to our eventual evolution, but it's no less important to experience all of these life lessons. In Eastern Buddhism, they would say that desire is the cause of all human suffering, while we would speculate that it is our reaction to our desire that is the cause or root of all of human suffering. It's not really the desire itself. Desire itself is pure in its form. It's how we act it out. It's our relationship to it that we can become a victim to. So some people will aspire to be materially rich, or to be successful, or to experience their desires through their sexuality, or be spiritually enlightened or in love. The point is, we are all going to have these desires. That's part of our life. The desire is pure. It's not for anything. We're simply designed to yearn for things. And that yearning provides us emotional fuel for us to escape the yearning or vent it in some kind of way. But desire never actually goes away. Once you satiate the hunger that you had, you are going to immediately start yearning for something different. The original Chinese I Ching hexagram for this gene is clinging fire, which is really fitting because it encapsulates the way we cling to our desires. So despite how you try to resolve it, it never goes away. There's always going to be a way that you're driven to new experiences, and that's the intention of the desire itself. So the paradox of this shadow then is that you can't transcend desire. It has to be embraced. It has to be accepted as part of your mentality. It simply is what it is to be human. You know, it's kind of funny how some spiritual traditions will believe you, will make you believe or try to make you believe that they can transcend your desire to end your suffering. Right? So if you're going to tell me that you can get rid of my desire to have a desire, to end my desire, you know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, if I have a desire to end my desire, there's no way you can make that go away from me. That's what it is to be human. So you have to be careful about some of these gimmicks that are essentially, you know, they are essentially gimmicks that are out there that are telling you, we can fix that, we can get rid of that. You know, it's same thing like fighting off or killing off the ego. It's not killing it off, it's making friends with it. It's embracing that it's part of what it is to be human, is to have an ego and to rise above the ego and add more consciousness to your life, so it's not your ego making all the decisions. Same thing about desire. You can't transcend the desire. It's part of what it is to be human, but you don't have to act on all of your desires. You can instead use it as fuel for your evolution, and you can decide the longing that I have within this desire is to feel this kind of way. I can manifest through that feeling through other choices rather than self-sabotaging addictions or ways to manifest a quick fix solution to the desire, if that makes any sense. So in a repressive nature, these people become over serious. They take everything too seriously. They become stiff physically, physiologically, psychologically, emotionally stiff because they're repressing their life force by not acting out any of their desires. They take life way too seriously, and their passions really start to fizzle out because they're not acting on any of them. So in our modern world, we could actually say that the majority of our human civilization is pretty repressed with this gene. It's become pretty over serious. If all our feelings were unleashed on a collective level, our collective has a fear that this will result in a kind of anarchy. So this 30th shadow is how we collectively keep ourselves in check from that. So, you know, you see it how, you know, back once upon a time, you might be able to have made a joke. And I'm not talking about ridiculing someone or being harmful to somebody, but just a lighthearted joke would have been able to be expressed without, you know, conflict or judgment. These days, people are so serious, they can't even take a joke. Everything is so heavy and everything is so offensive to people. And again, I'm not talking about a joke that criticizes people, but just a lighthearted joke. It's harder to have those kind of conversations with people these days because a lot of them have become really over serious. So in a reactive nature, these people are considered to be flippant. They are totally rude and disrespectful. They are cocky. They are brash. They have no care of the consequences of their reaction, and they manifest all of their desires. They abandon themselves entirely into all of their desires. So while the repressive nature wants to suppress them, the flippant reactive nature wants to act on all of them. So they become a victim by externalizing all of their desires, and they quite often burn themselves out, and often this happens early on in life. So an example of a reactive nature of this flippant gene might be someone who gets really drunk at a bar and is just obnoxious to the people around them. They gave into the desire of drinking without having any filter in their mouth, and they're speaking rudely and unkindly to people. And then they want to go home and they drive themselves home. Their desire to go home burns brighter than the consequence of driving drunk and going unsafely to their destination. Then they get there and they call into work, and they negatively impact a chain of people who are now going to have to fill in for them and cover the things that they were supposed to be doing, and they have no care about any of their consequences. This is just one experience of someone manifesting that flippant nature. When you raise this vibration up, then we come to the 30th gene. This is the gift of lightness. This lightness is all about surrendering to the helplessness of being a normal human being. You literally start to lighten up. And I'm not talking about the fact that you're really a victim. You are helpless because you're beyond help. You start to heighten your awareness to see that you're all just part of this game. And when you can truly surrender to that, you begin to experience a shift in your frequency and in your whole being. It's your human mind that gets so serious about things and wants to control the outcome, wants to control existence. And true surrender can't be forced, it can't be faked, it just must emerge on its own. And when it does, this lightness allows you to make light of any situation. The gene keys would call it kind of a suicidal tendency that says to creation, like, okay, I give in, do with me what you will. Like, I trust in all the experiences that I'm meant to have that will emerge in my lifetime. I'm okay with it. Like, bring it, I'm here for it. You start to know that life is always working for you. You're not a victim to any of it. You're just experiencing life in all of these different ways for your eventual growth and ascension. So the true strength comes from this acceptance, this release of expectation of outcome. It comes with this true, real surrender. Once you give in, you operate from a higher level of functioning, and you realize it was your distrust in life that kept you feeling a victim to it in the first place. That in itself was what was making life so difficult for you. So the gift of lightness doesn't really change your destiny, but it changes your perception of it, changes your perspective of life. It gives you a whole different level of awareness. Some might call it a breakdown, some might call it a breakthrough. You begin to see life as kind of a joke. You have this lightness about it, this lighthearted nature emerges around you that's felt in your emotional body. So one of the interesting things about the gene keys is this combines the information from the I Ching and from human design and puts them together into this gene key wisdom. But with the human design, they have an animal totem for each frequency for each gene. The animal totem for this gift of lightness is the meerkat. And what's cool about the meerkat is that this is Timon on The Lion King, in Disney's movie The Lion King. And Timon is this meerkat that says, no worries, Hakuna Matata. It's all about living this problem-free philosophy. And that truly is someone that's embodying the gift of this lightness. He's not taking life too seriously. He's always cracking jokes. He's embodying this surrender to life, that it's all happening for him. There's some people that you meet that will pretend to have this lightness about them. But the way that you can truly see someone who's operating from the true nature of this gift to someone who might not be is how they express themselves. It's found in their emotional nature. So someone that's truly manifesting this gift is not afraid of allowing all of their feelings to emerge, because they know they won't become overwhelmed by them. It simply is a part of being human. The gift of lightness allows you to become your desires. They know that we don't need to follow all of our desires necessarily. We just need to feel them. People manifesting this gift knows that following each and every one of your desires is a sham. And when your human awareness can grasp that, that's when this true freedom really emerges. Chasing your desire is not going to lead you to peace, so you're not compelled to do that. These desires and these addictions no longer have this hold on you. They become like guests. You invite them in and you let them go. Lightness is the letting go of the need to escape desire itself. This week, I keep being reminded of that poem by Rumi, which is called The Guest House. And the guest house goes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." The other hallmark of lightness is a sense of humor. Everything is viewed in this detached way. So you're still feeling deeply and sensually, but you're still taking things lightly. This human is a gift, and they're not being sarcastic with it. This lightness is about taking things not so seriously. It's not being sarcastic or directing your jokes at anyone in particular. It's more often kind of allowing them to kind of poke fun at yourself or poke fun at life itself. You know, it's not mean. It's not biting comments. It's not passive aggressive. It's this compassionate humor that emerges. It just doesn't take life too seriously. And all of it emerges as a byproduct of being one that is surrendered to life itself. You can see all of human behavior from the deep suffering to the great pleasures that come up with the buildup and the release of all of these desires. You kind of walk the Tao with it. You walk the middle path with it. You're not a victim of your consequences, but you're not so far removed that you don't know that there is suffering in the world. So I watched this amazing after school video the other day, which is on YouTube. I'll put a link to it in the description box. But it was about one of the Ram Dass teachings, and it was saying how when we operate from our higher consciousness, we walk the middle path. We recognize the human suffering in the world, but we also realize the balance of life. And, you know, part of being a human is recognizing the suffering without becoming so much of a victim to it that we don't also recognize all of the pleasures, all of the joy in life. Everything in life is perfect because it's all balanced. You know, I look forward to our eventual evolution that goes beyond our dualistic nature. And walking the Tao, or the middle path for me, is living a life that's more about going beyond polarities. It doesn't have to be good or bad. It can be good and bad at the same time when you walk that Tao. And so this week has been all about walking the Tao for me. It's come up in like literally everything. So, we could all learn something from Timon. Hakuna Matata means no worries. That living that worry-free life allows us to live a life that's more in balance. As we move through the higher frequencies of the 30th gene, we realize that there's just one single desire, and it's the desire to end our own suffering. It's this desire that leads you to your own path of spirituality or inner work, inner speculation, inner inquiry. We all have this desire to escape or to ascend, to be free, and that is the final great desire of all human beings. It's the urge of evolution itself, longing to be transcended in its form. As you fully step into the pure field of this longing, you enter into the purifying fires of consciousness. This codon group is part of the ring of purification, and it takes you on this really interesting journey where you have to trust so much that you give up your desire to transcend. And it's only in your surrendering of the desire to transcend that the transcendence can emerge. Because remember, if you desire to transcend, you haven't transcended a desire. You can't move beyond it. So eventually you have to come to a giving in, surrendering process of, just it is what it is. I will be what I will be. I will ascend if I'm meant to, or I won't if I'm not meant to. I'm not clinging to a type of desire. I'm not clinging to a particular outcome. I know, like I said, that life is working for me. So it's going to be my eventual, my eventual evolution might bring me back in for another incarnation, or might bring me to an ascension. But, I'm open to accept whatever will be, will be. So your body actually begins to fill with light in this 30th Siddhi, and your subtle bodies are purified by the strength of your longing. So this 30th Siddhi of Rapture is such an unusual one in that it manifests as one of the divine ecstatic states. It's actually terrifying for human beings to actually conceptualize. The programming partner to this highest destiny path is devotion. In Western culture in particular, we have stepped so far away from our culture as far as when it comes to our theology, that to us, someone experiencing a true Siddhi of divine rapture looks like a madman and is treated like a madman. In some civilizations, these people experiencing this divine rapture would be sedated, would be locked up and institutionalized. So we might never see this manifest on a collective level until we go to that next phase of our evolution that I talk about in the Gene Key 55 video, because it changes our DNA so much that the physical form that we're currently in isn't capable of experiencing all of those higher frequencies. So an ancient shaman used to be able to enter these states of consciousness, and now the closest that we come is the rapidly increasing drug and dance culture. We think about the drug ecstasy, we think about these raves. This stems from what people used to do with their consciousness, was go to a higher state of consciousness, experience this state of euphoria, and then dance it out with others. And now we have this prevalent drug culture where people are taking drugs and then going to experience this state of euphoria. But what I will say is that in my life, I have become sober, and I am now going into these environments that I might have shied away from because when I was really young, there was an ecstasy and rave scene, and then it kind of fell off, or I certainly didn't vibrate at the frequency of it aligning in my life, so I didn't really have any experience with it. Now coming to this sober place in a spiritual community, I'm seeing all these ecstasy parties emerging all over the place, but they're ecstatic dance events for sober people, and they're collectively reaching this state of euphoria without any substance. So, certain religions such as Islam are rooted in these devotional codes. So while we might not experience a collective city level of rapture in our culture, we do see it manifested in some others. So the suicidal bombers are actually operating from this 30th gene. It is their desire to give themselves up as a devotional act that is putting them in these situations that they strap these bombs to themselves and then blow up, a public space. It's all emerging from this shadow place, but it's those people's desire to transcend their suffering in a devotional way, I can't say it's in a rapture way or a devotional way, really, because it's still coming from this desire. It's still coming from a shadow place. But that's how strong it is rooted in the culture of these Islam cultures, is that you have these suicide bombers. So, as I said, this DNA causes these powerful mutations that we really can't even fully understand in the physical forms that we're at right now. It's until we go through our evolution that I talk more about with the 55th gene, that we will operate more from our solar plexus place, and we will be able to allow these higher frequencies to settle into our body to have these mutations that will evolve us in these different ways. So what we can say is, whether or not we manifest the city of rapture in a collective field, I've been able to experience it this week through, contemplating this gene in these interesting ways and surrendering to life itself and allowing life to unfold for me with all of its mysticism and magical teachings. So the city really only occurs when you give up your desire to achieve the city. I literally had the experience, literally, of reading this information, taking it in, thinking about it in all these ways, and, more than halfway through my week saying, okay, well, I just have to accept the fact that the highest path for me with this gene is going to be the gift of lightness. I won't be able to experience this rapture because I don't have the chemical mutation in my body that will experience this. So I just kind of surrendered to the fact that, okay, well, I guess I won't experience what that feels like, but I will get to experience this freshness that comes with this new outlook, with this lightness, and then my week keeps unfolding, and then I do reach these euphoric states and this utter and complete feelings of joy. And it was just so funny how I surprised myself, and that surprise only came when I surrendered to the fact I accepted that it wasn't going to come. So in some other cultures, they would say manifesting this gift or this highest destiny path is about being our longing. So when we go through life, we're genetically hardwired to experience connection and belonging. And we're all fractals of the same one. So it's always an illusion when we feel disconnected or like we don't belong, but it's very human it's a very human experience for us to have these feelings. So once we truly belong with the world, we become the longing, we become the desires, and that's how they emerge for us. So while the state of divine rapture is literally all about being so burned by the fires of bliss over and over again, the people around them can even manifest this devotional energy because, as I said, it does come from the energetic, emotional aura. That's why there are certain mentors and spiritual guides and teachers that can literally transform the hearts of their mentors, of their students, because they become so devoted to what they're teaching. They become so passionate about it that you just feel, you just become one with that fire. You just manifest that for yourself as well. You just, I've been reading about some of these different spiritual guides that had this Siddhi in their life, and people are so devoted to them because of their devotion, because of their embodiment of these highest destiny paths. They can literally transform the hearts of the people around them. What's so interesting is that, like in India, people that are experiencing this highest destiny of rapture are treated the exact same way as someone that's gone mad. They're locked up, they're sedated, they are treated like a madman. So it's just so interesting how some of these cities, we're just not in our human evolution to really accept them for what they are yet. So we're frightened by them. This city, when we see somebody manifesting it, it looks completely insane to us. These people are burning in this way that they seem crazy. So the higher your frequency rises, the more you surrender to the divine currents, and the more that you're willing to burn for your higher state of consciousness. And it just flows naturally through you. You've given up the desire to manifest your desires, and you naturally emerge into these higher states. So, activating your genius. This week has been so fun in so many ways, truly because I surrendered to the fact that it just wasn't going to happen, and I accepted it and embraced it, and know that, I don't really feel like getting locked up and institutionalized and being treated like a madman. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm not going to manifest that desire, and that's totally cool. And then the week unfolds, and I end up in these like really euphoric situations. So before I get to that, I'm going to start by just offering some of the tools, contemplative questions for activating your own genius. So this week I would invite you to consider what is weighing you down. What is keeping you from feeling the lightness that you should be feeling? What are you tied to that you're not really tied to? I invite you to think about your addictions. And, maybe this is alcohol, maybe these are drugs, and maybe it's your addiction to perfection, maybe it's your addiction to trauma, maybe it's your addiction to your illness, maybe it's your addiction to sugar, or working 80 hours a week, or your addiction to relationships. I read a great book recently by Russell Brand called Recovery. And what I loved about it so much is he gives his own versions of the 12 steps, which are very closely linked to the 12 steps that they would use in 12-step groups. But he does give his own spin on them. And I love how he generalizes addiction, that he makes it so accessible for anybody to do these 12 steps. And I swear, if we all did the 12 steps, I feel like we could turn around this world from its shadow places and emerge it into its gift states. in like one generation. I feel like whenever I see those things about if we could teach our children meditation in one generation, we would abolish human suffering, or a lot of human suffering, and violence in the extreme ways that we see it, like with wars and stuff. And I'm like, man, I feel that too. If everyone meditated, and if everyone at some point in their life as part of their human curriculum did the 12 steps, like holy Hannah, that would be so amazing, so life-changing, so transformative. And so I invite you, if you desire this week, to go to russellbrand.com. He's got a section that says free books and courses. And under there, he has PDFs under the book Recovery. And you can see his version of the 12 steps. It's an extensive curriculum to undertake, and it's going to bring up a lot of things. But that's what we're here for. That's what the shadow work journey is all about. And once you get to the root of all of your desires and your suffering, and you relinquish your clinging and attachment to those forms of suffering, you can then say, you know, I can achieve this feeling, but through a higher vibrational way. I can align with something different to still achieve these feelings of euphoria. So, you know, I did a podcast recently that I shared my sobriety journey on, or at least some parts of it. And I'm going to put that in the description box too, that link, because I think that it correlates with this gene, because I was telling myself in my story around alcoholism or addiction that I drank in order to form deep and meaningful connections with others. So my desire was for these deep and meaningful connections. The story I was telling myself is that I can achieve that through alcohol. The way that I was saying that is because I could go and socialize with my friends at bars. We could go to these social experiences. We could go tubing. We could go have a pool party. We could do all of these things. And that's how I was telling myself that I was having meaningful connections in a social way with these people. But really, when I stripped back and took the alcohol away, I could say I was diluting myself and keeping myself from the true engaging conversations that I would want to have. I was simply submerging myself into a social setting, but I wasn't having the connection and the meaningful relationships that I wanted to have, because I was letting the alcohol get in the way of that. I had blinders on to truly see the depths of the way that I did that. So you take away the alcohol, and now I have the meaningful connections. Now I have the engaging conversations. Now I have what I truly desired. I just had to go around the way that I was manifesting it for myself. And that's what I really invite you to contemplate that this week is, what are your desires and how are you achieving them or repressing them? Because if your desire is for connection and you think that you can get there through isolation, we need to make some changes, you know? So again, what I love about the Russell Brand book is that it makes addiction and recovery so mainstream, because there's no one in this world that does not suffer in some way and cling to some form of their suffering. So once you add some awareness behind it and strip back all the layers, you can really embark on this new sense of freedom by lightening up and getting rid of all of the limiting beliefs and things that no longer serve you. So that's really what I invite you to do this week. When I think about lightness, I also think about donations. You know, this is spring season if you're seeing this in lifetime. So this is also about lightening up, getting rid of old clothes that you haven't worn in a year and donating them. Thinking about what you are tied to, the old stories that you're clinging to, the old traumas that you've experienced that you're still holding on to. You know, I think about, if you meet someone that stopped smoking cigarettes and you ask them, hey, what'd you do last year? they're going to tell you that they stopped smoking cigarettes because for them, it was something that they clung to so much so that it became a part of their identity. So giving up the part of that identity was a huge thing that they identify with. Some people will cling to an old illness that they have and they wonder why they're not feeling free or getting rid of it. It's because they're still clinging to that old identity. So this week's contemplation is all about letting go of the stories that you were telling. Maybe at one point you experienced some trauma and some suffering, but you're not free from that suffering if you still want to tell that story to everyone that you meet as your biography of who you are. If what you learned from those experiences was how courageous you are, how resilient you are, how strong you are, let that be your identity instead of your identity that you're a victim of this, that you're a survivor of this. Reframe the story. Tell it from the new strengths and character virtues that you've built from it. This week I went on an unexpected road trip, and when we were first hitting the road, we were leaving much later than we wanted to leave, and then we get 30 minutes out and we forget one of the most important things that we're supposed to bring on this trip. We're like, well, I guess we're turning around and I guess we'll be an hour later than we were already. But you know what? Who cares? Hakuna Matata. It is what it is. This is an important thing that we need for this trip. So let's be lighthearted about it. Let's have fun with it. So that was just kind of like a fun experience of this lightness. It's like, yeah, whatever, it's not a big deal. And then this euphoria that came that I got to witness. I went to this beach cleanup event in Boynton Beach, and it was through plasticsymptoms.org. Definitely check out their website. Their mission is to eradicate marine debris, which is really just a fancy word for littering, pollution. This pollution gets into our water, yes, but it's also covering our beaches and inevitably gets into our body as well. And if we make light of the situation so much that nobody picks up any trash, then we're not getting to the root of the problem. So I got to witness this speaker talking about making his life mission cleaning up this debris. So he went on this 1,400-mile trek cleaning up thousands of pounds of litter and spreading all this awareness while he was doing that. And hearing his story and his devotion and his rapture about his life's work was so inspiring. It was so encouraging to be a part of and to experience all the people that have been now magnetized to this project based on these efforts. It was so rewarding to be there and to be a part of it and to pay witness to it. And, I'm having this experience of rapture by seeing his rapture, and then I'm on this road trip, with this special person, and we are just having these sing-alongs in the car, and I watch him just jam out to, his song, and I'm seeing this charismatic nature of him emerge, and I'm just totally smitten by, I'm just in complete euphoria. I'm having this feeling of rapture by watching someone totally embody the trueness of their nature. It was absolute euphoria. There's no other way to describe it, and so it's just so fun taking this adventure with y'all and having these experiences and seeing how these cities and these gifts come into my life. And so part of activating your genius now, I'm so much more inspired than ever to say, go for a cleanup, whether it's out in your backyard with a trash bag over by the street, or it's at a beach, or it's in a local park. Start cleaning up the world. Start thinking about your connection to plastic, your connection to the environment with all the single-use plastics that you're using. Can you add more awareness and intention to take a reusable tumbler out with you instead of getting plastic water bottles every day? You know, can you bring a trash bag with you to the beach every time you go to not only clean up your mess, but the mess left behind by the people that were there before you? You know, that is this lightness. It's all when we are cleaning up our shit internally and externally, we emerge into these higher states of these genes, these this lightness, this euphoric feeling. You know, it's so lovely how it emerges. And you know, here I am having this amazing experience, you know, going to the other coast and being part of this beach cleanup. And then I come back the next day and I'm deeply emotional, to be totally honest with you, but I'm deeply emotional in this way because I went back to a place that I used to live, and all of my memories about that place were wrapped up in the memories that I had with one of my best girlfriends that I lived with there, who unfortunately died from brain cancer. And I didn't realize that I never went back there after she died because I harbored all of these feelings of sadness around her loss. And I didn't realize until a day after coming back from this place and having this amazing adventure and experiencing all of this rapture and euphoria and pure bliss, did I realize how I needed to go on that trip to rewrite my stories of Boynton Beach, because I didn't even realize how I had attributed Boynton Beach now to a form of suffering, a victim place that I had, that Boynton Beach reminded me of some person that I lost. And I needed to go back and experience it in a new lens, with a fresh perspective, with the person that I love, experiencing this joy and this lightheartedness, this like hilarious road trip. And after having that euphoria today, I was just so full of emotion. And those tears coming out were reminding me, like the after school video with Ram Dass did, that I can be happy at my experience that I had this week, making all these new memories, and I can also be simultaneously really, really sad that the person that I love and care about so much is no longer here in her physical form. You know, that's okay. That it's okay to be sad about that loss, and also be really happy about the new things that have come from my life. Without that loss, maybe I wouldn't have all these experiences and be meeting these new people. It's okay for them to simultaneously exist. Ram Dass says, as he's by the bedside of a man dying of AIDS, my human heart cries with you at the suffering that you're undergoing. And also, I'm so happy at this beautiful life that I'm living. And both of those things can simultaneously exist. And that's what this journey for me this week was really all about. I can be serious in putting out these messages with y'all about this shadow work that can really change your life. And I can also show up in a ridiculous fascinator because I'm full of lighthearted joy, and it makes me smile, and maybe it makes you smile too. And that's the balance. That's what it's all about. So this gene is just all about going within, as they always are, and looking at your desires. Are you addicted to things that are self-sabotaging? Is there a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of getting rid of that addiction and stepping into your power? And can you explore that more? And can this be something totally external too, and just picking up debris and trash and changing your relationship to our environment? The universe lies within you. You are the universe. You can't say that beach cleanup is outside of you. That is your skin. That is what you are one with. It's not somebody else's problem. There's no such thing as somebody else's problem. We are fractals in a holographic universe. Someone else's problem coming to your life is your lesson to be learned through their experience and how you treat them in their experience. It's all related. This victim mentality in this gene is, what are you clinging to? What is the clinging fire within you? And is it making you burn out externally? Are you giving into all of those desires and exhausting yourself and not achieving the true desire that has been manifested through an addiction of some kind? Are you exhausting yourself in that way, or are you repressing yourself so much that you're not allowing yourself feel anything you're so afraid of feeling? You know, if I truly knew that we were going to Boynton Beach, before I truly knew that we were going to Boynton Beach, I might not have wanted to go. I might have told myself, that's going to be really hard because I have so many memories there and it will remind me of something that I lost, and I might not embark on that journey. But life handed me a different script, and I was told I was going to Lake Worth, and I separated myself from the fact that they're neighboring to each other, and I embarked on this journey. And I'm so glad that I did, because I got to achieve the rapture that I literally didn't even expect would come from it. I surrendered to the process, I trusted in the journey, and this week was one of my favorite experiences. So many things to contemplate, so many links to also put in the description. I'm going to link you with the groups that I was affiliated with this weekend. I'm going to link you with a place you can donate your goods to, safe place. I'm going to link to you to the after school video with Ram Dass to check out, and all of the after schools are amazing. I think it's a great way to get important information across in a way that can be more easily digestible, which is always the message that I try to do with this gene work, because these are complex topics that when we relate to, and I can share my personal experiences with you, they can become a little bit more digestible. And that's always the mission. That's why I do this work. I'm just about trying to spread the good vibes, share the inner work with you all to see how many adventures you can embark on through the gene keys. Every week looks different. Every week arrives at a different gift. And every shadow brings you through a different trauma, an event that you've experienced, and changes your relationship to it. This week is all about be your longing, be the longing. Instead of having a burning desire and thinking that this desire is totally outside of you, you don't go into a relationship because you don't have love for yourself and you need to have love. So you want to be externally validated through love. You go into a relationship because you have so much love, it spills over, that you want someone else to scoop it up and enjoy it with you. So that's what all of these are about. Be the longing that you are after, manifest it within you, so you're not externally validating yourself through the substance or the experience, and watch how your life literally transforms. I'll also put the link to Russell Brand's website as well, so make sure to check out the description box for all that juicy nectar, and share your story with me. I love getting DMs from you. I love getting the emails. I love hearing how these are affecting your life in all the ways. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. I love you so, 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 so much. I wish for you nothing but divine rapture and all of the harmonious lightness that can come out of it, and this gene. I love you. Namaste.